everyone and welcome back to another video. It feels really weird to be sitting down filming a video. I can't remember the last time I filmed one. Life has been very hectic. Like, I just feel beginning of April to beginning of May has been a bit of a write-off. Not in all bad ways, but definitely I just haven't had the time. And yeah, so I'm just out of practice for filming videos. April was a strange month. A lot was happening. And then I went down to London, and then I got COVID. Not from London, I don't think. Then I got COVID, and then I had a week before I went away on holiday. I went to Ghana, my mum got remarried, and I had a little holiday there as well. It was good. I use the term holiday loosely because it was also quite stressful, but it was actually overall very good. And now I'm back in London, but then tomorrow, no, London. Now I'm back in Glasgow, but then tomorrow I am off to London, so I've been back for a week. But what I wanted to talk about today was the books that I read whilst I was on holiday, or rather the books that I didn't read, because your girl had high hopes. I mean, I thought there would be a bit more days of chilling by the pool or chilling on the beach, so I would be able to read these books. That didn't end up being the case, which is fine. So one, I didn't have the time to read some of these books, but also two, as I was reading some of them, I was just like, not sure that I'm a fan. And also, I will take you through two books that I picked up whilst I was actually in Ghana as well. So, if we start with the first book that I took away with me, that I bought actually specifically for this trip. I bought these two books specifically for this trip because I have been trying not to buy any new books and read what's on my existing stack of books, but I was like, for this trip, I want two books that I'm really interested in. So the first is All About Love by Bell Hooks. So I got to page 88 of this, and I started reading this on the plane. Maybe on the plane? No, I feel like it was actually when I got to the airport in Ghana, because I had to wait for my brother and his luggage, and it just took forever. And at first I was like, maybe I'm just not enjoying this because I'm just in such a busy setting, I've been travelling all day, and then the next couple of times I tried to read it, there was just a lot going on. So I was like, maybe that's the reason why, but actually the more I read of it, and I did note it down in my little book journal, my issue, I guess, with this book is, it's not a bad book, I just thought there'd be some more research behind this, and the reason I say this is because I have read Ain't I a Woman by Bell Hooks, and that I just feel like is packed with research. You can tell how well researched it is, all her evidence is there, but also her own thoughts is there, whereas this is just her own thoughts about love, which perhaps loads of people know this, but I think for me, coming off of the back of that book, I thought there'd be a bit more academic sources in here, touching on other studies. She does recommend a lot of books, which I like, which I'm like, oh, I'm inclined to check those out. But overall, they're just her sort of thoughts and feelings, and for some of them, I just feel like some of the statements she's making, I'm like, I don't really know if you're qualified to say that. Fair enough, it's an opinion, but you state it like a fact, and to me, it just comes off a bit So I actually think that's what the main problem is with this. I definitely thought there'd be a bit more, scientific sources. If I think back to, I think it's called How to Be Sad by Helen Russell, or also Wintering by Catherine May. It reminds me a little bit of this book and what I thought it'd be like, in the sense that they are sort of personal stories, but they also include elements of research in it as well. So I don't really know that I would say to back up their point, but to more illustrate how, yes, said thought that they're having has been shown on a wider societal group of people. Yeah, I know what I'm trying to say. So not enjoying this as much as I thought I would, which is a real shame, and I'm very much not wanting to pick it up at the moment, so I'm going to park this for the time being and then just see how I feel later. I feel like I'm a bit out of practice. I do feel like the camera angle is a bit wonky, but I can no longer move the table because there are things on it that are just way too heavy, whereas before I could just quick the table and move this to the middle. So I do feel like I think it's a bit wonky. But anyway, on to something that I did finish, and this is Trauma is Strange by Steve Haynes, illustrated by Sophie Standing. Full disclaimer, this is one of the books that's published by the imprint that I work for. I am reading the Really Strange series for work, just to look at how I can do some marketing campaigns. But I wanted to take this one away with me because I started to read the Touch is Really Strange one, and then I read it once, I read half of it and then never picked it up again. So I was like, let me take this one away with me, and then I can also read it whilst I'm chilling. And it was the only one I managed to complete, and I actually did really enjoy it. I have marked it on my Goodreads, but I haven't rated it. And yeah, this is actually a very, very lovely book. It's all about trauma, so this is sort of aimed at general readers but also at like body workers as well, talking about trauma and how that affects the body. But for the general reader, it's just really nice to know about how trauma can change your mind, but also to find out about some other studies. And like the book The Body Keeps Score is referenced in here a lot, which is a book I've been meaning to read for so long. And it was actually a toss up between that and All About Love, but I was just like, do I really want to be reading something so deep on holiday? So I thought, let me just read this. Wrong choice. But there are loads of studies talked about in here. It talks about PTSD. It just talks about in terms of what our body goes through when we're sort of experiencing trauma. So in terms of at the moment, if you're triggered by something, what's going on in your mind, but then also how your body and your mind deals with trauma in general, in terms of if you forget things or why certain things don't go away. I thought it was really insightful. I've never read a book specifically on trauma. I've obviously read like loads of self-help books and a lot of them touch on trauma and things like that. But this was very nice from a very like scientific point of view, but also because it's just got the really nice images. It's not entirely like my style of illustrations, but what I do like about this is you can, well, maybe not in this one so much, but in the other ones, like the sort of good stuff is very brightly coloured, and then the dark stuff is like, you know, in hues and tones of like blues and greys and things like that. I thought this was really informative, and of course it was the only book that I finished. I'm definitely going to mention it here, but obviously wanted to put that disclaimer on it. I think it's great, but it's purely my own opinion. I am not being told to say that it is great. But yeah, it was the only one that I finished, and I actually think I'm going to get a copy for my friend, because I actually think she would really enjoy this and maybe just find it informative as well. So something I took away with me and didn't even crack open is this, Where We Find Ourselves. You might have heard me talking about this last year. When I spoke about the fact that I have a poem published in this anthology. I really wanted to read it, but I just didn't get a chance. And yes, I'm terrible, I haven't read it yet. I definitely will be reading it this year. But again, I took, what, 3 full books away with me. 3 books, 1 graphic novel. And yeah, only 1 was completed. I tried, guys, I really did try. But yeah, so this is one that I took away with me but didn't finish. So here's a book I was really excited to read. It's been on my Amazon basket for so long, and it's Search Sweet Country by Kojo Lang. And I ordered this specifically for Ghana because this book is set in Ghana. This author actually, it says Accra in the 1970s, but the author was born in Ghana, but actually he studied in Glasgow in the 1960s before returning to Ghana, to Accra. So I was like, perfect, I'll read this while I'm out there. And I actually did start it on my birthday. I had a very wonderful birthday whilst I was out there, but I started it on my birthday. But honestly, I read about like 10 pages, and then my brother woke up, and then it was just like time to get ready. And then, since then on the holiday, I did try to pick it up again, and I just found myself like wading through the words. So I was like, again, maybe not in the best mind frame to be reading this, so I put it down. But this one says, Accra, Ghana in the 1970s, in the streets, marketplaces and crowded houses of this sprawling city, an unforgettable cast of characters live, love and try to get by. An idealistic professor, a beautiful young witch, a wide-eyed student, a corrupt politician, a healer and a man intent on founding his own village. Through their stories and those of the living, breathing city itself, Kojo Lang's dazzling novel creates a portrait of a place caught between colonialism and freedom, eternity and the present. I just thought it would be a really nice book to read whilst I'm out there because of it being set in the 1970s and me being there at the time that I am now, just to see what the differences and things were. Obviously this is a fictional account, but guys, obviously I was out and about in Ghana. I was not reading. There was so much going on. I was not reading. So again, this is one that because I've gotten off to such a sluggish start with it, I now don't feel very inclined to pick it up, which is annoying. But it's been one that's been on my TBR for quite a while, so definitely probably going to pick it up in like the next 3 weeks to a month. But at the moment, it's also getting parked. So then whilst I was out there, I listened to another Miss Marple story. I'm going to do a separate video on my sort of Miss Marple experiences versus Poirot so far, because definitely I'm not enjoying it as much. And to be honest, it's not because of the change in like the character. I still think the mysteries are quite good. I just feel like the Miss Marple books are very long, and they're not actually very long, and they don't centre Miss Marple a lot until like the middle point, and it's just like, it would just be a mystery book, so I find it very weird sometimes that she's just plonked in there, and it's just like, oh okay. this is a Miss Marple novel. So the one I listened to was the 450 from Paddington. I kept every single time, like when I wanted to find out what was going on in it, and I'll come back to why that was, I kept typing in the 405 from Paddington. I don't know why. I actually knew most of the plot of this book, but I forgot who did it, because I listened to that podcast all about Agatha and they talked about this book. Now, the reason why I kept having to go to Wiki and stuff like that for the book is simply because I'd been listening to it before I go to bed. I had a lot of sleepless nights in Ghana. It was just really hot. I was getting bitten by mosquitoes. Like, I was falling asleep out of sheer exhaustion for like 2 hours. And like, when I was waking up, audiobooks, like this audiobook was the only thing that, you know, could provide me distraction from just everything that was going on, because I didn't want to keep scrolling on Instagram. And also, your girl didn't have internet like that in Ghana, so but yeah, so I kept like listening to it, but then obviously I'd fall asleep, and then I'd have to keep rewinding back to a point where I thought I was, and I'd have to rewind much further than I thought I actually was. So I probably listened to some parts like 4 times during the span of like my 10-day holiday. But yeah, so I finished that. I actually ended up giving this 1 star because it is what I said. I've gotten to the point, I think I've read like 5 of them now, where I just feel like Miss Marple gets inserted in at a very random point in the story and provides all these clues, and I'm just like, I don't even know how she knows that, and it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel seamless. The mysteries are fine, and actually I think even in the case of this book, the mystery went on for way too long, and the person who it ended up being, I'm like, okay, I'll give you it, because, you know, they were still a focal point of the story, not so much, but I never felt like they were hidden out of sight. But the focus on so many of the other elements went beyond like red herrings. It just was just like, you are focusing us so much on these other elements of the story that it's not fair that none of this is even relevant. Anyway, the 450 from Paddington is, I think actually in America it's called What Mrs. McKillicuddy Saw, because Mrs. McKillicuddy is travelling on a train and another train comes by her and she sees a man strangling a woman. And she reports it to like the train police, and then also her friend is Miss Marple, so she also tells Miss Marple. And that's very much in the beginning of the story, and that's how Miss Marple is involved in it. And then the Miss Marple essentially ends up figuring out, like, you know, there was no body found on the train, therefore someone had to have gotten rid of the body, and where was the natural place to get rid of the body? How she discovered this is because of a curve in the track. Okay, so it ends up the fact that there is a body in a certain place, and she employs a woman who is like a super nurse, and she's really good at like domestic chores and things like that, to essentially go to the house where she thinks it is and ask her to basically find this body. And so what we get of a lot of in the story is how great this woman is. I think her name is like Elizabeth or something like that. How great she is and how smart she is. Initially we get that, but then we get that throughout the whole book from every single person that really likes her. Most conversations about her start with the fact that she's really great, you know, about her to her face, or just in general about her, and it's just like, we get it, she's a domestic goddess. But yeah, so she's tasked with finding this body, and of course like she finds the body, and that's when the mystery ensues of like, one, this woman's been dead for a while, so they can't actually tell who it is, and then all sorts of things get thrown in about who she is. Really, I said all sorts of things. It's always between 2 people of who she is, and then the mystery gets unravelled. It just felt very, very long-winded, and whilst all of this is going on, like, they've involved Miss Marple in the sense that she's like, I think her name is like Elizabeth, I can't remember the domestic goddess's name, that they say that Miss Marple's like her gran or her aunt or something, so she's like nearby, but also she's nearby doing absolutely fuck all. She comes to the house once to have tea and that's about it. Otherwise the mystery is very much focused on like this domestic goddess and like the different people in the house, and it's all very uninteresting. In the house is a woman named Emma, her father, I can't remember what his name is, who's like some stingy rich guy, and then she has 3 brothers. And there's also the sort of side plot of the fact that they think someone's trying to kill the dad, because once the dad dies, the kids will come into their inheritance, because their dad was only given like a stipend from his dad, because his dad was like, you're kind of useless, so I'm just going to give you money each month, but actually I'm going to leave the house and like the businesses and stuff like that to my grandkids. So the old man is just like, everyone's just waiting for me to die, and I'm not going to die, so you guys can't have anything, but I'm just going to hoard all this money. So yeah, he's not very nice. Some of the brothers don't sound very nice. Everyone's just prattling on about how much of a domestic goddess this other woman is, and no one knows who the body in this, I won't ruin where they find the body, is. And it just felt like a jumble, and I just got into the point where if this was a normal mystery, it probably would be a 2 stars, because I still think it was quite long-winded. But as this is a Miss Marple novel, I just don't understand why she's not included as much. Like, she's just there sort of like shouting little hints from the back, but other than that, like, the main stories are never about her. I find it very odd, and I don't feel like I enjoy the series as much as I enjoy Poirot. And finally, when I was waiting for my flight back, because it was delayed by an hour and a half, honestly, because there are no direct flights from Scotland to Ghana, I went with KLM, but so that meant I went from Amsterdam, I went from Glasgow to Amsterdam, to Ghana, and not one of my flights, so I took 4 flights in total, every single one of them was delayed. And then on the way back, my luggage didn't arrive. I was standing there at the luggage rack waiting for my luggage. The conveyor belt stopped, and I was like, what is going on today? I have just, travelled overnight, didn't even sleep, probably slept for like 45 minutes. I was watching Broadchurch, very good. And now my luggage is not here. I'm just looking around, there's no airport staff. Eventually some guy comes out and he's like, have you guys not got your luggage? No, we just stand in here because for the fun of it. And then he's like, oh yeah, your luggage is on the next flight. It would have been good if someone told me that. It would have been really good, but I got my luggage like 2 days later. But anyway, whilst I was waiting for my flight, because it was delayed, I actually did start Conversations on Love by Natasha someone, but I forgot that I started it because, I read like very few pages of it, and then was just like, I'm just going to use my phone instead. The only reason I remembered is because I went to put my Kindle on charge and it was like the cover of it, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I started this, so I didn't mark it. I started because I'm probably just going to read it again another time. So, on to 2 books that I picked up whilst I was in Ghana. So the first is this, An Outline of Asante History by Ose Quadro. Don't know, kill me. So whilst I was in Ghana, we flew into Accra, and that's where we stayed for the most time, but we also went to Kumasi and we went to Mensha Palace, and a lot of what the guy was telling us, first of all, Mensha Palace was under renovation. So we were just in this small little room. I'll put some pictures up here. Which, they just pulled out some of, the statues from the museum and put it into a room. But a lot of the history that he was telling us, he said, was just outlined in here. So I thought, I really liked the sound of the history that he was telling us. I found it very interesting. It was very nice to hear more about the kings and queens of Ghana and the different wars that they fought in. So I was like, I'm going to purchase this book. Don't know when I'm going to read it because I have a whole stack of books, but I wanted to buy it, so that was great. I can't remember how much this was. This was like 50 cedis, so it's about £5, I would say. That's one. And then we went to Elmina Castle, which is in Cape Coast, which is one of the castles where they held slaves. And there were tons of books there, of course. There was even Homegoing. I kept telling so many people about Homegoing on my trip there, whilst I was in Ghana as well, but it was very nice to see that they were selling Homegoing because it starts in, I don't know if it starts specifically in Elmina Castle, but definitely in one of the castles along the Cape Coast. But this is a comprehensive course in Tweed for the NonTweed Learner by Florence Abina. I don't know how to say that last bit. And me and my brother both got this, just so we can actually learn Tweed, so I understand it and I speak it very minimally, like how they, like a dog, like what people say that you can speak, you can understand but you can't speak, like that. So I just thought this would be good because actually looking at it, because I already know what a lot of the words sound like, I am able to just pronounce them, but at least I'll be able to practice and be like, oh okay, this is how you say certain things and whatnot. Because I can say very minimal things like, I'm fine, how are you, how much does this cost, I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm hungry, very, very minimal things, but I can understand a lot of it. So when people are talking to me, very much I grasp a lot of the conversation. But yeah, so those are the 2 books I picked up. This, hopefully, I'm planning on going to Ghana again in 2 years' time, so hopefully by then my tree would have improved. But yeah, that was my books that I read on holiday, or rather books that I didn't read, and a mini little book haul. I do plan to start making more videos. I think life is perhaps slowed down to being a little bit less chaotic, we'll see. But yeah, it's also been chaotic, but it's also been pure laziness on my behalf, not really knowing what to film. I just don't want to sit here all the time talking about here is a book haul, or here is an overview of a book, when really I just want to get into the nitty gritty of books. So sometimes I've just been a bit uninspired, but here we are. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what books you have been reading lately, and I'll catch you in another one. Bye!